Hello. Today, we are going to talk about the most important subject of all when it comes to spirituality. We are going to talk about the most important subject that ever exists when it comes to your spiritual path. We are going to talk about trust and what it is. Now I want you to imagine that you and I, in a coaching session, are writing down a list of all the things you and I have a reason to be afraid of. Let's write that list right now, in our mind's eye. Right now, you and I are writing a list of 100 reasons to be afraid in life. I may write, I'm afraid to get cancer. You may write, I'm afraid to get AIDS. I may write, I'm afraid to be robbed on the streets and be killed. And you may say, I'm afraid of being kidnapped. Or I'm afraid that my children will be kidnapped. And I may say, well, I'm afraid that I won't be able to support myself financially in the future, and I will lose my apartment and have no job and end up on the streets again. And you might say, I'm afraid of being hit by a car or getting involved in the car accident. So you get the point. Right now, you and I have written 100 reasons to be afraid list. A long list of our fears. Now, trust is simply, what it means is simply taking that list of 100 reasons to be afraid and burning it. Never again thinking about that list. Never again focusing on that list. You have decided that you are never ever again in your whole life ever give any focus or attention to that list ever again. This is what trust is. Trust is the ability to let go of our fears. It is the ability to burn that fear list and never again think about it. Trust is the ability to let go and surrender to the process of life. It simply means, it simply means that you have surrendered to the process of life. You have let go of your fears. You have trust in the process of life. I say this one more time. Trust in the process of life. What do I mean when I say trust in the process? It means, note the word process. When I say trust in the process, I say what I mean. I am saying burn that list of fears and trust in God. Trust in the process of life. And trust simply means that you stop worrying about things that have not yet happened. Stop worrying about things. Stop being afraid of things that have not even yet happened. Stop focusing on the negative outcomes. Focus on the present moment. Stop projecting thoughts into the future. Stop projecting thoughts into the future. Let go of the future. Surrender into the present moment, where no fears exist. Step out of your mind, because all fear exists in the mind. Press the off button of your mind and have trust in the process of life. Have trust that God is guiding every step of your life. You just have to let go of your fears, your strains, your worries, and trust in God. God will not let something bad happen to you. The only one who can make bad things happen to you is you. Only you, your fears, can make fearful things happen to you. Things you have attracted with the law of attraction, your thoughts, what you focus on, since you're a co-creator with God, things you focus on, the emotions you feel in the body is your attraction point. So if you focus on fearful things, you attract fearful things. So, trust in God. If you stop thinking about fearful things, never ever can something fearful happen in your life. My own life is a living testimony to the things I'm speaking. Right now, it is about 5 years I can consciously remember that I have lived a life of surrender and letting go and focusing only on the present moment, and I haven't thought about any fearful thing for 5 years. And let me tell you a secret. In all these 5 years, not a single negative event has happened in my life compared to before, where a lot of bad things happened in my life. So my life, my own life, is a living testimony to the words that I'm speaking here. So now you know what trust means. Trust simply means you give up worrying and being afraid. You surrender to the process of life. You stop trying to make things happen in a certain way. Thank you. Oh, we still have some time. So, let us continue. So, where were we? We were talking about trust. Trust is the ability to let go of your fears. If you have a high ability to let go of your fears, you have high trust. If you have low ability to let go of your fears, then you lack trust. That's simply the measure stick for trust. So the next time you see yourself thinking fearful thoughts, then that is an indication that you lack trust in the moment. You think you lack trust in God, and therefore you think that you must control everything. Because what is control? What is worry? It is simply lack of trust in the process of life, and because you lack trust in the process of life, you think you have to do everything in your power to avoid a certain situation or event from occurring, or to avoid certain things happening. So you give so much focus and energy on resistance. So, let us take an example to illustrate what we mean by trust. I was a person who, a couple of years ago, was very afraid of the idea of screaming or dancing or making a scene in public. I had a fear of public exposure. I thought that if I dance on the streets or act crazy on the streets or scream on the streets, the police may come, or I would end up in some kind of a trouble. But what I realized was that when I finally found the trust in the process, what I did was I trusted the process. I decided that I'm gonna stop being afraid of this certain situation, and I'm gonna trust in the process. So I trusted in the process. So I went out on the streets where there were hundreds of people, and I screamed and shouted and waved my arms and made scenes. And what I discovered, to my surprise, was reality was not nearly as dangerous as I believed it was for almost my entire life. Almost my entire life, I believed that if you make a scene in public, you will end up in trouble. But I have learned now that that was just a belief, not reality. So when I trusted the process, guess what? Nothing happened. I screamed and I made scenes and I danced and made all kind of crazy things in public, and nothing happened. So for almost my whole life, I was afraid of an imaginative outcome of a certain situation. But when I put myself in that situation, I saw that it was not as dangerous as I believed it was. So, trust is the ability to let go of your fears and trust in the process of what you're doing. So if you, for example, are afraid of speaking in public, which is a big fear, then the reason you are afraid of speaking in public is because you don't trust in the process. You don't trust in yourself. Therefore, you are afraid of the situation speaking in public. But if you have full trust in the process, there can be no fear in what you are doing. If you are fully trusting the things you are doing, you're trusting the process, then it is impossible to be afraid of what you're doing. Because you're not focused on the possible negative outcome of what you're doing. You are focusing on letting go and surrendering to the process. That is when miracles happen. That is when you become a walking miracle. Everything you do becomes miraculous. Because you don't focus on a potential negative outcome of the things you are doing, but you're just 100% present in your action, having 100% trust in the process of that action. This is part 1 of trust, part 2 of trust, and part 3 of trust, and more. There will be more videos on the topic of trust. So stay tuned. This is